How would you handle aggressive or violent or hostile behavior on campus?
So I think it depends on the campus policies. So I wasn't there on campus, but at the University of New Mexico, there was actually a white male who had a gun in our student union the night after the election took place on November 8th. And the way that that was taken care of is that they closed the sub down and made everybody stay in a safe spot because they weren't sure what his intentions were when that happened. And so they ended up arresting him, and they found more firearms and more things in his vehicle, yet he wasn't even charged with anything, which is really interesting because we have a gun-free zone on our campus. But there are policies in place, and if there's an active shooter on campus, if there are violations of sexual harassment or hate and racism. So there are places to report that, and I think we as administrators, faculty, and even staff, we need to know what that means and what that looks like, but also students need to know that there are venues for them to be able to report things, but also that they have people that are there to support them.
It's unacceptable. Any violent language is unacceptable. Acts of hate, acts of aggression are unacceptable. We, on our college campuses, are to uphold. It's a tricky walk. We've seen it. I mean, we have on our campus a kiosk, and when you put up a presidential election campaign slogan like "Build a wall, make it tall," that's one person's free speech, and for some people that is threatening speech, that is painful speech. And so it gets tricky and complicated on when to intervene, when does the administration intervene, and it certainly intervenes when it starts getting personalized more directly to an individual, if it's yelled out a window towards somebody. At the same time, President Brand, he said a couple of things that were very wise amid all the pain that was being caused last spring. He said that what is the intention of your words? If your intention of your free speech is to hurt someone, then you don't belong here. If that is your intention, that kind of language doesn't belong here, and maybe you need to find another college to go to. If that's your intention to hurt people, that is not what the intention of free speech is supposed to be in a higher ed learning environment where we have a clearly spelled out mission statement and diversity and inclusion statement, and we're creating a civil discourse statement. And this is tricky business. I mean, it's kind of slippery, even with our Supreme Court, on where is the line, right, between free speech and hate speech. But intent is so important. If intent is harm, then it's unacceptable. The other part of this is President Brand. He said, we have the gift of free speech and other things that our Constitution provides, that the Academy upholds. So that's one side of this for us. But on the other is our United Methodist relationship, and that is the love. And then we have them together, and that love piece has to be there to help keep ballast and to help us be wise and compassionate, to be an inclusive inclusive environment for all people to feel welcome.
I have been the recipient of hostile, violent behavior rarely, which may tell you something about the poor quality of my Christian witness, because if it's about Jesus, it tends to bring out the worst in people, and that's the way the world reacts to Jesus. So maybe I ought to ask myself, why have I received mostly respect and not anger or violence? But I think just to keep reminding ourselves that Jesus Christ's way is the way of nonviolence. That's what he commanded us to do and be. And we can understand the anger and all, but I think Christians have a responsibility to keep reminding the world we ought not to react the way the world does. We have another way, a way of suffering love and solidarity. We believe a crucified Jew is the truth about God, one who did not react in that way when violence was offered to him. And that, admittedly, that is, in a violent world, that is a tough witness to make. But yeah, we've got to be there for that.
We always have to be mindful, particularly in the society in which we live now, that there may be hostile and even violent responses to various things that happen in our society. Of course, we are a secured campus, but there's no such thing as 24/7 security. And if someone decides that they want to do something in the spur of the moment, you have to know how to deal with that. Personally, I attempt to de-escalate any hostile or aggressive situations, but also to know when it is time to perhaps shut down conversation for the safety of persons involved, or to call security, or to simply walk away from those situations.
Well, I'm thinking particularly of a recent example at Wesley where Westboro Baptist Church was going to be demonstrating along the periphery of our campus, which borders American University. They were there to demonstrate something happening at American. I'm not sure what. Westboro being the organization that posts signs like "God hates fags," protests funerals. They're particularly known for that, soldiers' funerals and others. And in that case, we invite our students with a statement basically to the effect that we can't tell you what you can and cannot do. We know what our public safety requirements on campus are. Most campuses have already standards in place that exist within their honor codes or other standards of student conduct around what they can or can't do when it comes to a physical altercation. Mm-hmm. We invited them to consider as well what non-action looks like and what would be the potential impact of non-action, de-escalation perhaps. If they were interested in action, what our particular institutional boundaries were around that.